All right, what's cracking, everybody? New video. I'm on my lunch right now at work, and I was going through the comments, right? And I see that O5 is upset with me. He got at me in all caps. He wants his damn ghost story. And you know what? He said he felt lied to, and I understand. Because I did say that by Halloween, I would drop a ghost story. And I didn't. You know. But here we go with one. Okay. Recently, I was at a little spot I like to go and have a few drinks, right? And I ran into these two women. And they happen to be part of the family that I'm going to talk about. And they actually reminded me of the name, because I told them it's Mr. Something, and they looked at each other like, holy shit, he knows. And they told me his name, and I think I remember it, but I want to tell the story. So when I was a little kid, I lived on the east side of Santa Barbara. My dad's from the east side, right? And I lived across the street from Franklin School. And I had a friend that lived around the corner, a couple friends that lived around the corner, right? They lived on, almost on the, they lived on Montecito Street, right? For those of you in SB that know, it's on the east side, right by the library, Franklin School, right? And so my little buddy was like, my little friend was like, hey, you know, you want to spend the night? And I was like, yeah, fuck it, I'll spend. Because, you know, I've hinted at how violent my home life was. And so, you know, to get an opportunity to spend the night at someone else's pad was like, hell yeah, I'm down, right? So I go and I asked my mom or my dad, I don't remember which one. And they were like, yeah, whatever. So then I went with my friend and went to their pad around the corner. Walked in the living room, and the grandma, who was also like a recess monitor at our school, she was sitting next to the window where like the driveway is, right? And my friend's name was Johnny, right? He's like, hey, grandma, is it okay if he spends the night? And she's like, well, I don't know about that. And he was like, why not? You know, his mom and dad already said it's okay. And she asked him, did you tell him about Mr. Campbell? Right? Hold on, I'm getting messages. Did you tell him about Mr. Campbell? And he's like, no, it's okay. And she's like, no. And she tells me, Mijo, this house is haunted. And I think it was because my dad and mom were so crazy. Everybody was like, nobody wanted to have anything to do with my parents, right? So I think the grandma wanted me to understand, like, I don't want your dad coming over here, right? So she was like, look, I don't care if you spend the night, but I don't want a big scene. So before it's dark, you're going to see Mr. Campbell. Mr. Campbell's the ghost. And you'll see him walking around the house. Just, you know, don't pay attention to it. Just keep doing whatever it is you're doing, and everything's fine, you know. But some people get scared. So in my head, I'm like, yeah, right, okay. And I was like, all right. You know, like I said, I was a little kid. I was probably like 8 years old. Maybe 9. And so we were bullshitting, messing around in the house. And then the grandma starts calling us. Come here. So I went and she goes, look out the window. And she pointed into the little driveway, right? And when I looked out the window, I looked to the right where she was pointing, and they had a big wooden fence right there where the driveway was, because they had a bunch of banana trees in the backyard, right? And so I looked to where she was pointing, and sure enough, there was a man, fully clothed man. I want to say he had a hat on. And he walked through the gate, through the fence, a closed wooden fence, and walked right through it. And it was obvious he was a ghost. It's hard to explain how he looked, but he just walked straight through it. And I was like, oh shit. right? Like that tripped me out to see a man, fully clothed man with a hat, just walk right through basically a wall. So they go, come on, we'll find him in the backyard. So I run with them to the back, but now I'm a little bit spooked because I'm like, shit, if I run in the back and we get separated, what the fuck? What's gonna happen? So we run to the back, and like I said, they had a bunch of rows of banana trees. So we go to the back, and I'm not really trying to find them. I'm trying to stay close to the door, right? And they're kind of laughing at me like, Mr. Campbell's nice. He won't do anything. Come on, this and that. And I was like, I'm good right here. Hopefully you guys find him. I don't know what they needed to find him for. What were we supposed to do? Shake hands? That shit. So we go back in the house, but then I'm like, okay, well, I saw the ghost, clear as day. But everybody's saying he's cool, right? So the grandma calls me in back in the living room where she was, and she's like, are you okay with that? Or do you need to go home? Because we're not going to walk you home in the middle of the night. We don't want any problems over here, this and that. And I go, nah, I'm fine. If you say you know him and he's nice, then he's nice. It's okay. Well, later that night, I was in the bedroom, and it was me and Johnny on one bed, and the sister was on the other bed. And the sister kept telling me to get in bed with her, right? And I was like, be quiet. And she kept bugging me, right? Well, Johnny, I was laying closer to her bed. Johnny was laying against the wall, and he was laying on his stomach, and he had his arm like in between the bed and the wall, right? And the little girl was like, if you don't get in my bed, I'm going to get Mr. Campbell to get you, right? This is where things get weird. Because I was like, fuck Mr. Campbell. Mr. Campbell's not going to do shit to me. Mr. Campbell's a punk. And I started talking really bad about Mr. Campbell. And the little girl kept telling me, you better stop. And I just kept talking. And I probably talked shit about Mr. Campbell for about 5 minutes. And the next thing you know, Johnny's arm that was in between the bed and the wall got yanked down hard. Like, I even got rocked in the bed. Like, what the fuck? And I looked at Johnny. And Johnny started screaming. And his sister jumped up because where her bed was closer to the door where the light switch was. And she turned on the light switch. Okay, what's cracking, everybody? So my phone actually stopped working when I was telling the story, right? It said it overheated. So let me get back to the story. So what happened was I was talking shit about Mr. Campbell, and like I said, Johnny had his arm hanging down, right? And he's on my right-hand side. So he had his left arm hanging down. And then just, boom, the whole bed got like holy shit. And Johnny started screaming and crying, right? And his sister jumped up, and like I said, her bed was close to the door, and there was the light switch right there. And she hit the light switch. And Johnny pulled his arm up, right? And he's crying, and he's looking at his arm, and he's scared as fuck. And there was a big scratch mark all the way down his arm, right? And I remember the grandma, she came running. Boom, she opened the door, and she goes, what's wrong? What happened? And Johnny was just staring at his arm, right? It was left arm. He was staring at his arm, and he was just fucking like all pale, crying. And Johnny's sister told the grandma that I had talked shit about Mr. Campbell, and that Mr. Campbell yanked on fucking Johnny, right? Yeah, I was never allowed back at the house. They made me leave. They told me, you have to leave right now. And they said, you can never come back in this house. It was a trip. Like, it sounded like doors were slamming, and we were all in the bedroom, and they were like, you have to leave. And sure enough, they walked me to the corner. They called my dad. They walked me to the corner, and my dad came to get me. And that's the only time, like, I've never believed oh, I'm looking at the wrong, the camera's right there. I've never believed that a ghost can hurt you, right? And that's the only time, because I've been told that in that whole thing that only a demon can hurt you. I don't think Mr. Campbell was a demon. I think he was just a ghost. But I can tell you, he yanked on Johnny. He scratched the shit out of him, and started slamming doors. And I needed to get the fuck out of there. So that was my experience with Mr. Campbell, the ghost. But since this video got cut off, the phone somehow got hot as fuck. I'm gonna tell you another one, very, very quick one. But I'm telling you guys, that's why when people ask, do you believe in ghosts? I've had a lot of different experiences with ghosts. So here's another one. So anybody from the 805, from Ventura, Santa Barbara area, you guys know where Summerland is. Those of you that haven't, but you've gone from LA or somewhere south up north, and you've taken the 101, when you're going through Santa Barbara County, to your right hand side, if you're going north, you're gonna see at one point there's like a little small little hill, and there's a bunch of pads right there. And then you're gonna see this yellow building, and it's gonna say, there's a sign, and now it's really faded, but it says the Big Yellow House. The Big Yellow House is a restaurant, right? Well, the majority of the little pads behind there are studios. This was probably 1987, right? And my dad, his wife, and his wife's son lived in a studio. No bedrooms, just a studio apartment right there, right? And my dad was like, hey, mijo, you want to spend the night? And I was like, fuck, all right, I'll go over there. So I go over there. The whole day, my dad barbecued, we ate, we kicked it. There's really nothing to do in Summerland. So, we're just chilling right there at the apartment, and then nothing, nada. It was everybody, good time, whatever. Then it gets dark. Everybody, my dad and his wife are on the bed. Next to me is her son. He's like 2 years younger than me. He's laying on the floor next to me. I'm laying on the floor. And he's right here on my left side. And next to me is the bathroom door, right? And then next to that is the little kitchen area, little kitchenette, right? And my dad's wife asked my dad, oh, did you tell him about the ghost? I was like, what do you mean? Immediately, I was like, what do you mean? And my dad starts laughing. They were smoking a joint in bed, right? Getting ready to go to sleep. And my dad starts laughing. I was like, nah, what do you mean? And my dad's wife, she's like, no, you need to tell him. And he goes, don't worry about it, man. He goes, a fucking ghost that runs around in here, and he likes to play around and shit. And I was like, what the fuck you mean he likes to play around? Oh, did you tell me about this? You need to tell me about a playful ghost in the daytime and give me an opportunity to leave. Nobody's gonna take me home now, right? And he's like, nah, he just does little tricks, don't worry about it. Just go to sleep. He's not gonna mess with you. I was like, yeah, okay. So I lay down, right? And I'm laying there, and I got the blanket on me. I'm like this. I'm looking. I'm like, what's up with this fucking ghost shit, right? Right next to me. Like I said, the bathroom was next to me. The fucking light turns on. And I was like, this is a blanket? And I was like, I say, hey, man, somebody turned the light on in the bathroom. And my dad's laughing. I'm like, the fuck? Then the sink turned on. I said, oh, hell no. I put the blanket on my head. I said, somebody turn that shit off right now. I was scared as a mother. I'm right next to where this motherfucker is apparently standing, right? I'm like, oh, hell no, the blanket on. I said, I'm not looking. I don't see nothing. I'm not looking. Somebody turned this shit off, right? And then the water turned off. And then it turned back on. Then the kitchen water started turning on. My dad's like, man, this motherfucker plays too much. I'm like, shit, you play too much. Tell me about these motherfucking ghosts. So, one of my older homeboys, later on, a couple years later, he tells me he worked at the Big Yellow House. It was a restaurant. He said, yeah, I used to work there, eh? And I go, hey, well, you know what? My dad fucking lived right there. And I started running down the story, and he goes, oh, no, I know that guy. And I'm like, who, my dad? He's like, no, the ghost. I was like, what the fuck? And he goes, yeah, and he told me his name. I don't remember his name, but this is what happened, allegedly. He said the guy was like a 15, 16-year-old kid, and he was always a prankster. He was always joking around, playing around. And he was walking towards a door, and he was playing with a knife, like flicking a knife around. And the door swung open for a waitress or whatever to fucking come through. And he was playing with a knife, and when the door swung open, it hit him, and it punched the knife into his chest, and it punctured his heart, and he died in the fucking restaurant. And he's always been known by everybody, I guess the staff and everybody, to always still prank everybody. And they say he especially likes to go, like, so in all those studio apartments and all those pads right there, if there's a pad with kids, that's where he's gonna be. That's where he's gonna spend the majority of his time, because he likes playing around and he thinks he's playing. I wasn't playing. I never spent the night there again. I hope the big yellow house, no, I don't want to say I hope it doesn't. It's not in business anymore. It doesn't look like it, and I know why. So, Sonny and the Ghost Hunters, go to the big yellow house, because there's some playful ass motherfucker that wants to turn the sink off and on for you. But anyways, there you go. 05, there's your story, big dog. I didn't lie to you. I was just a little bit late. You know, right now I had time, and so I want to knock this out. I'm going to try to upload it right now and put it out tonight. So that means I'm not going to get no views. So you better watch it, big dog. So everybody, please stay safe, stay smart, and tell the ones you love that you love them. Remember, ghosts are real.